edge of a quiet town stood a school everyone feared. For more than 20 years, nobody dared enter after dark. The building was empty, yet strange reports never stopped. Some people claimed they heard footsteps in empty hallways. Others swore they heard children laughing long after midnight. Most residents ignored the stories. They called them old legends meant to scare kids. But on a cold October night, one teenager decided he would finally discover the truth hidden inside. The abandoned school was a place of dark secrets. Tension filled the air as he approached the entrance. What would he find inside the shadows? The truth awaited him, hidden in the darkness. His name was Ethan Carter, 17 years old, curious, fearless, and determined to prove that the stories were rumors. Earlier that evening, his friends challenged him to enter the abandoned school. Ethan laughed and accepted the dare. But standing in front of the building now felt different. The school looked larger than he remembered, darker, almost alive. A loud metallic screech echoed through the night. Ethan swallowed hard and tightened his grip. Something deep inside told him to turn back, but another part wanted answers. Then slowly stepped deeper into the school. The sound of his footsteps echoed through the empty hallways. Every classroom door seemed to be watching him. Every shadow looked as though it might suddenly move. He kept telling himself that there was nothing to fear. It was just an old building, just wood, metal, and concrete. Yet the deeper he went, the stronger the strange feeling became. It felt as if someone already knew he was there, as if unseen eyes were following his every movement. Then, somewhere far down the hallway, he heard a faint sound. Not a whisper this time. It sounded like a chair being dragged across the floor. Ethan immediately stopped walking. The sound came again, a long scraping noise, as though something heavy was being pulled. He aimed his flashlight toward the end of the hallway. His heartbeat quickened. Logic told him there had to be an explanation. Maybe an animal had gotten inside. But deep down, he knew neither explanation felt right. The sound continued for several seconds before suddenly stopping. Then, silence returned. Complete silence. Ethan swallowed nervously and took another step forward, unaware that he was moving closer to the school's darkest secret. As he followed the direction of the sound, Ethan eventually arrived at a classroom unlike the others. The faded number above the door was barely visible. Room 13. He remembered the stories told around town. A student named Daniel Parker vanished from this classroom. Despite months of investigation, nobody ever discovered what happened. No evidence, no witnesses, nothing. Eventually, the case faded into history, but rumors survived. Strange things happened near room 13 after dark. Ethan had always laughed at those stories. Yet standing before the door now, he couldn't shake the feeling. The room was somehow different from the rest of the building. Ethan reached toward the handle. Before his fingers could touch it, the door slowly creaked open by itself. The sound echoed through the hallway like a warning. Ethan immediately stepped backward. His heart pounded so hard he could hear it. For several seconds, he simply stared into the darkness beyond the doorway. Nothing moved. Nothing appeared. The room remained silent. Finally, curiosity overcame fear. Raising his flashlight, he stepped inside. Dust covered every surface. Old books lay scattered across the floor. Abandoned desks stood frozen in place. Yet despite the years of decay, Ethan couldn't escape one strange feeling. The room didn't feel abandoned. It felt occupied. And slowly moved through the classroom, carefully examining every corner. The silence felt unnatural. It was as though the room itself was holding its breath. His flashlight swept across rows of desks. He froze instantly. Beneath a layer of dust, something had been written. Fresh words, fresh enough to be clearly visible. Ethan's stomach tightened. There was no possible way anyone should have been here recently. Yet the message looked as though it had been written only hours ago. With trembling hands, he stepped closer and read the words aloud. "Don't look down." The warning sent a chill through his entire body. But before he could react, a loud bang suddenly echoed from somewhere directly beneath the floor. Sudden noise startled Ethan so badly, he dropped his flashlight. As the beam spun across the room, it briefly illuminated something unusual. Long scratch marks carved deep into the wooden floorboards. Ethan quickly picked up the flashlight. They formed a trail stretching across the classroom. Some of the grooves looked decades old, others appeared much newer. It was almost as if something had been dragged. The deeper he looked, the more uneasy he became. Whoever, or whatever, had created those marks wanted something hidden. Following the scratches, Ethan eventually reached the teacher's desk. Behind it, the floorboards looked different from the rest. The wood was slightly darker and less worn. Kneeling down, he brushed away years of dust and dirt. His breathing became heavier as a hidden outline slowly emerged. It wasn't just damaged floor. It was a concealed hatch, a trapdoor. Ethan stared at it in disbelief. Why would a classroom contain a secret entrance hidden beneath the floor? More importantly, why had nobody ever found it? As he reached toward the rusted handle, the distant whisper returned. This time it sounded closer than ever before. Ethan wrapped both hands around the rusted handle. At first, nothing happened. Then, with a loud crack, the trapdoor suddenly opened. A freezing gust of air rushed upward from the darkness below. Ethan immediately stepped back. His flashlight revealed a narrow stone staircase. The stairs seemed far older than the building itself. Dust swirled through the air, as though the passage had been sealed. Then, the whisper returned once more. A child's voice echoed from somewhere far below. Soft, weak, terrified. "Please, don't leave me here." Ethan's blood ran cold, because for the first time that night, the voice didn't sound like a ghost. It sounded real. Ethan stood frozen at the entrance of the hidden staircase. Every instinct told him to leave. He had already discovered more than anyone expected. But the voice below sounded real. It sounded frightened. Taking a deep breath, he stepped onto the first stone stair. The staircase groaned beneath his weight. One step became 2. 2 became 10. The deeper he descended, the colder the air became. Soon the school above disappeared completely. Only darkness remained. Then Ethan noticed something strange carved into the stone walls. Hundreds of names. Some were faded with age. Others looked newer. As he moved his flashlight across the wall, one name made his heart stop. Daniel Parker, the missing student from room, and carefully traced his fingers across the carved letters. The name was real. Someone had scratched it into the wall. Beneath it were dozens of other names. Names he had never heard before. Some appeared to belong to students. Others seemed much older. The tunnel stretched endlessly ahead. As Ethan continued walking, he began noticing strange symbols. Circles, arrows, shapes he couldn't understand. The deeper he went, the more it felt as though he had entered a place that was never meant to be discovered. Then, somewhere ahead, he saw a faint light flickering in the darkness. Flickering light guided Ethan toward a large underground chamber. The room looked impossibly old. It was far older than the school itself. Stone pillars rose from the floor to the ceiling. In the center of the room stood an old lantern. Ethan stared in disbelief. Someone had been here recently. The lantern was still burning. But where was the person who lit it? He slowly approached the center of the chamber. That's when he noticed footprints in the dust. Fresh footprints. Someone had walked through this room not long ago, and judging by the size, they belonged to a child. Ethan followed the footprints across the chamber. They led toward a narrow passage hidden behind one of the stone pillars. The footprints were small and uneven, as though the child had been running. Fear mixed with curiosity inside him. Who could possibly be living beneath the school? And how had they survived unnoticed for so many years? As he entered the passage, the voice returned once more. This time, it sounded clearer than ever. "Please hurry." Ethan's pulse raced. The voice wasn't behind him. It wasn't above him. It was directly ahead. The passage eventually opened into a small hidden room. Ethan immediately realized this place had once been used by someone. A dusty bed stood against one wall. An old wooden table sat in the center. Faded photographs were scattered across its surface. Ethan picked one up and shined his flashlight across it. The image showed a classroom filled with students. At first, nothing seemed unusual. Then he noticed a familiar face. Daniel Parker, the missing student. But what truly terrified Ethan was what stood behind Daniel in the photo. A tall figure with an unnaturally pale face. A figure nobody else in the picture seemed to notice. Ethan stared at the photograph for several seconds. The pale figure looked almost human, yet something felt terribly wrong. Its proportions seemed unnatural. Its face appeared blurry, as though the camera itself couldn't capture it. He quickly searched through the remaining photographs. To his horror, the same figure appeared again and again. Different years, different students, different classrooms. Yet the figure was always there in the background, watching, waiting. Ethan's breathing grew heavy. Suddenly, a loud sound echoed from somewhere beyond the room. Footsteps, slow, heavy, and getting closer. Ethan immediately turned off his flashlight. He listened. The footsteps continued, slow, deliberate. Whoever was approaching wasn't trying to hide. The sound echoed through the tunnels, growing louder with each passing second. Ethan's heart pounded inside his chest. Then he saw it. A shadow moved. Not a child, not an ordinary person. Something much taller. The figure paused outside the doorway, as though searching for him. For a terrifying moment, Ethan thought that they found him. The figure remained motionless for several seconds. Ethan held his breath, afraid of even the smallest sound. Then the shadow slowly moved away. The footsteps faded into the distance. Ethan waited another minute before daring to move. His hands were shaking. Whatever he had just seen wasn't normal. Yet despite his fear, he couldn't stop thinking about the voice. Someone still needed help. Gathering his courage, he stepped back into the corridor and continued deeper underground. After several minutes of walking, Ethan reached a large metal door. It was built into the stone wall. Thick chains hung from its surface. Deep scratches covered the metal. It looked like something tried to escape. Then Ethan heard it again, the child's voice. This time it came from behind the door. "Please open it." Ethan's pulse raced. He grabbed the handle and slowly pulled. Heavy door creaked open. Ethan raised his flashlight and stepped inside. The room beyond was unlike anything he expected. Hundreds of newspaper clippings covered the walls. Every missing person case from the town's history. Photos, names, dates, decades of disappearances. And in the center of the room stood a single chair. Someone was sitting in it. Slowly, the chair began to turn. Ethan's heart nearly stopped as the figure faced him. It wasn't a child. It wasn't Daniel Parker. It was someone Ethan recognized. Someone who should have been impossible to find. Beneath the school. Chair completed its turn. Ethan's eyes widened in disbelief. Sitting before him was Mr. Harrison, the former principal of the school. According to town records, he had died, yet here he was, staring directly at Ethan. The old man's face looked pale and exhausted. His eyes carried decades of fear. Ethan wanted to run, but his legs refused. Then the old man spoke in a weak voice. "You shouldn't have come here." The air grew thick with suspense. Mr. Harrison slowly stood from the chair. He explained that he had spent years hiding beneath the school, not because he was guilty, but because he was protecting the town from something buried far below. Every disappearance, every rumor, every mystery was connected to a secret hidden beneath the tunnels. Ethan listened carefully as the old man pointed. "The real danger isn't here," he whispered. "It's down there." The atmosphere thickened with tension. What lay beneath was a mystery waiting to be uncovered, and Ethan was about to find out. Against all logic, Ethan followed the old principal. The tunnel grew older with every step. Soon, even the stone walls began changing. Strange symbols covered every surface. The air felt heavy, unnatural, as if the place itself was alive. Then Ethan noticed something shocking. Hundreds of handprints covered the walls. Small handprints, children's handprints. stretching endlessly into the darkness. The passage opened into a massive chamber, hidden beneath the town. Ethan could hardly believe what he was seeing. The room looked ancient, far older than any building above. In the center stood a stone structure. Mr. Harrison stopped walking. His expression turned serious. This is where everything started, and this is where it must end. The air was thick with mystery. What secrets lay hidden here? Ethan knew they had to uncover the truth. Ethan approached the stone structure. He noticed dozens of names carved into its surface. Every missing child, every disappearance, every victim. Then a cold breeze swept across the chamber. The lantern light flickered violently. Somewhere in the darkness, a low growl echoed through the room. Ethan's heartbeat accelerated. Whatever had caused the disappearances was nearby. Darkness at the far end of the chamber began to move. A tall figure slowly emerged. Ethan recognized it. The same pale figure as the photographs. The thing stood motionless, watching him. It didn't speak. It didn't move. Yet its presence filled the room with fear. Mr. Harrison stepped forward. "It's been waiting for someone to find this place again," he said quietly. The air grew heavier as he spoke. The figure remained still, unblinking. Fear gripped Ethan's heart. What had they awakened? The chamber held its breath. For years, the town believed the disappearances were random tragedies. But Mr. Harrison revealed the truth. The pale figure had existed beneath the town for generations. It appeared whenever the hidden chamber was disturbed. Most people never survived encountering it. Ethan felt trapped between fear and disbelief. Every story he had ever heard suddenly made sense. The chamber's secrets were finally revealed. He realized he was not alone. The figure was watching him, waiting. Ethan's heart raced as he faced the truth. The town's dark history was about to unfold. Period. Chambers suddenly began to tremble. Dust fell from the ceiling. The pale figure took a single step forward, then another. Ethan backed away. The old principal quickly handed him a small journal. Inside were decades of notes documenting everything. People need to know the truth. If you escape, tell them what happened here. The truth must be revealed. What lies beneath the school is terrifying. Ethan knew he had to act. The tremors grew stronger, urging him to flee. Time was running out. He had to escape. The chamber suddenly began to tremble. Dust fell from the ceiling. The pale figure took a single step forward, then another. Ethan backed away. The old principal quickly handed him a small journal. Inside were decades of notes documenting everything. People need to know the truth, Mr. Harrison said. If you escape, tell them what happened here. The chamber suddenly began to tremble. Dust fell from the ceiling. When Ethan finally emerged from the school, the first light of dawn was rising over the town. The tunnels beneath the building had collapsed completely. No trace of Mr. Harrison remained. No trace of the hidden chamber remained either. But Ethan still held the journal. Inside were hundreds of pages of evidence, proving that the mysteries of the abandoned school had been real. To this day, nobody knows exactly what happened beneath the town. Some believe Ethan imagined everything. Others believe the truth was buried forever. But one thing is certain. If you ever hear a whisper coming from an abandoned place, thanks for watching. Subscribe for more mysteries and horror.